Good evening, everybody. It just started raining, so if there's a little bit of pitter patter in the background, I apologize. Merch Hunter Ricky, and I am back with 3 different devil fruits for my ongoing series. So welcome to Devil Fruit Ideas Part 8. Now, these 3 devil fruits were suggested all by commenters, and typically I like to throw in a devil fruit that I created in there, but this time I decided to let you guys take the wheel, and you guys came through in droves. So the first devil fruit we're going to talk about is actually a Logia type. Woo! It was suggested by a good friend of mine. His name is Mur, and he runs a blog of all types of anime topics, a lot of One Piece stuff. He has a series where he kind of breaks down devil fruit evolutions and generates the devil fruit expression of his own ideas, and those are really good. I'll link a couple down below in the description. Now let's get right into it. He suggested a Logia type called the waste fruit. And what I like about this fruit already off the jump is, like, you know, waste is produced naturally by many different types of way. And yes, one of those ways is poop. So we will get into that. So as a waste Logia user, I figured if the name waste is like a little bit too vague or too generic, maybe something that Oda wouldn't name the devil fruit. Maybe he would name it the toxic fruit, or like the toxin fruit, you know, something of that nature. But then that would imply that you're naturally secreting poison. You'd just be Magellan, right? So the waste fruit, you basically control all types of hazardous waste. You become it, you manipulate it, you generate it. And the most obvious types of it can be, you know, as severe as radioactive waste, or as intense as something, you know, just like an unclean environment, just like the sludge building off of something. I wonder if mold, right? Does mold happen to go in that category? That's something we should look up. I've been busy moving back and forth. As you see, Raijin is finally back in the video, and I've missed him greatly. One thing about waste that I like about it as a Logia type is you would be kind of more like the Aokiji style Logia, right? So if you got punched, how like Aokiji would turn into ice to deflect the punch, he wouldn't, you know, dissipate into mist like Monet. He would turn into ice, and you'd hurt your fist, or you'd get frozen yourself, right? As a waste user, right, the waste Logia, I could see you being something like, and I mean, this is kind of gross, but like, let's start off with a wall of poop, right? You're a big poop man. But if you punch a severe enough like waste of like wall of waste, would it be like acidic enough to dissolve your fist outright? You know? Let's say mold does count because it's the vague type of Logia. You know how like Caesar is the gas Logia, but Smoker is just smoke, which in a way is kind of gas, right? Hold on, need some coffee. Some crazy attacks you could do with this is, you know, like poison environment, just like how Caesar did it, you know, land of death. You know, you could just like shoot your waste onto the ground, you know, spread your toxic nastiness all over the environment, and use that basically to your advantage to make a battlefield of your choosing. Kind of like Crocodile and Alabasta. He chose Alabasta because it was a sandy paradise, and he manipulates sand as well as becomes it and generates it, like how Logias do. You know, Eneru was perfect for Skypiea because he's in the sky, there's clouds everywhere. Not only does he have, you know, infinite electricity in his body, but if he needs to, he could probably supercharge a cloud or two, you know? So going further, not only would you be able to shape the environment off the jump, kind of like the opposite of the Mori Mori no Mi. If you're not caught up to current manga events, don't look that fruit up. Sorry. But if you are, you know, being able to generate forests at your disposal, just change the landscape as a naturally nice foresty environment, that's going to be something a little bit too hard to contend with. But if you're the waste fruit, you know, you could conjure up all types of weird goop and nastiness and sludge, and, you know, like a lot of this stuff is just toxic waste that is not man-made, because once you get into the man-made territory, that's when you become a paramecia, and you cannot, like, you either become the fruit or generate it or manipulate it. Typically you can't do all three like a logia, which is where making the devil fruits gets a little dicey, right? So, you know, the waste fruit, you manipulate the area all around of different types of waste. Unfortunately, one of those types of waste is poop, right? And furthermore, although it is not the easiest fruit to come up with ideas for, I do like the possibilities of being able to just completely poison an environment to your disposal. No pun intended. Now, next up, we have the Fluff fruit. This one will be a paramecia, suggested by user Kazoo. You've suggested a devil fruit before. I believe it was the cookie fruit, which honestly is one of my favorite devil fruits I've made so far. So good on ya. So the Fluff fruit. What I like about this fruit already, there's many different ways you can do this as a paramecia. So the first way the devil fruit expresses itself, like let's say even if you're not a hairy person, it just puts a coating of wool on you. You know, you can activate your fluff powers and you get like sheep's wool, you know? And it doesn't make you a Zoan because you're just generating fur, or more hair rather, you know? It might permanently alter the way your hair looks. You know, you might just be floofy from now on with your hair, and you might have to do a little bit of combing up like I do. I have like a poof in my hair. I've had it my whole life, so I just go with it. This fruit, what I like is it offers a lot of defensive capabilities. You can put hockey on the fluff and make, you know, have like an iron fluff wall, or you can get defensive with it, same hockey style, coat it with armament hockey and hit them with like an iron pillow, you know? And it sounds ridiculous, but One Piece has done crazier. So I genuinely think this one would actually be perfectly up there with certain One Piece powers, kind of like Khalifa's, or maybe like how Chopper does defense point in the Rumble Ball, and just, you know, silly things like that that actually end up being very useful powers. Another thing you could do is if you shoot chunks of fluff out after you generate it from your body, right? I don't really see an observation hockey path for this other than, you know, sensing people and finding out the better way to place the hockey, or the stuff with hockey. But one thing I can see is, you know, making like a fluff barrier like in front of you, or like making like a fluff cushion for your friends to fall down on, or yourself, right? If you can somehow generate a light amount of fluff that somehow like negates the weight of your body while falling, because I can just see this devil fruit doing that, and like you catch the wind and ride the wind down, that would be pretty unique. Also, depending on how much fluff you create, you would always be able to make your own boat in a way, as long as the fluff doesn't sink, because then you'd have to coat it in something, right? Or like if you found the way to coat it and it's light enough to float on the water itself, you could make like a fluff raft, and I think that's a really good idea. I can see you doing things like making like a fluff bridge, you know, just like a cushiony bridge that you can walk across high distances or water. As I did say, you could use, you know, like an iron pillow for fighting, but this wouldn't be that kind of devil fruit. I don't think it would be like the ultimate fighting devil fruit, you know, but I can see it being a very, very versatile defense devil fruit. I mean, I could even see you bouncing back cannonballs like how Luffy does, but with your fluff, especially if you have like a type of staticky, sticky fluff, you know, just like hit them and they get stuck in the fluff, and then you just launch it back, or you deactivate the fluff and let it fall down into the ocean. You'd be very, very, very versatile in just about most things, and you would never have to worry about what you're going to sleep on. You just poof a little fluff behind your head and go to sleep. A very unique and a very fun devil fruit. And if we were to choose an awakening path for this, you know, obviously there's the obvious, that was stupid, but you know, you can generate like fluff naturally, but when you awaken, you can turn things into fluff, kind of like Doffy in the string, right, in Katakuri. Then you also have, like, if you're just manipulating fluff, like you just, like things that are fluffy, quote unquote, like wool, hair, feathers, Like, and that's when you get to the very vague territory. So let's just say you generate the fluff and you control the fluff you generate. I can see you just, you know, turning like a mountain of rocks into a mountain of fluff, a mountain of wool, and you throw it on people. I mean, you know, maybe a good idea would be to also maybe potentially name this fruit the wool fruit. Like I said, you're not venturing into Zoan territory because you're not turning into an animal. You're just gaining more fluff, more fur, more wool, and I just really like that idea a lot, especially if you can turn the environment around you into fluff with your awakening. I can see tons of different useful potential for that. Up next, we have the bone fruit, suggested by commenter Ethan. I featured some of his devil fruits in the videos before. He is a great commenter. I really like the way you think, kid. So, the bone fruit will also be a paramecia. I would have to look up a lot more to see what kind of logia it would be, right? But let's keep it as a paramecia right now. There's two ways I can see you doing it. That's like in the thumbnail I included a Marowak, you know, like the evolution of Cubone. But I also have Kimimaro on the mind because I believe that was his original suggestion, Kimimaro from Naruto. He's a guy, if you don't know Naruto, Kimimaro is a guy that, like a type of like cursed person that uses his bones from his body to fight, and he manipulates them in such a way that it not only does it not kill him, but he can do things like make bone shields and like a spinal whip, and just stuff like that is very interesting. So let's make a couple different paths for this devil fruit. Path one is that you control bone around you. Surrounding bone, you have to dig it up, you have to carry one with you, but you can shape this bone, or you might even summon one big fucking bone, right? And you can summon this thing wherever you go. You can turn it into a club, a bone meringue like in Pokemon. You can turn it into a bone sword, bone shield. As you get better with the devil fruit, you can generate more bones and maybe even potentially do the ones in your body. Now, the only reason I'm hesitant as, you know, path number two for this devil fruit would be to manipulate the ones in your body. It would be dangerous to do this in one piece when everyone has access to hockey. Even you. Even though you have access to hockey, all it takes is one person with better hockey than you, and you're doing some sort of rib cage bone technique, and all of a sudden you run into Kaido and he hits you with the Raime Hake. Your ribs are broken and you're most likely going to die from that. So you'd have to be very choosy how you choose to use the fruit if you only manipulate your bones, right? If you can manipulate bones around the area like Kid in Metal, you can do a lot more crazy damage. And then as an awakening, let's go with bone manipulation, not in your body, but around the surrounding area, just bones in general, you know, like you control calcium, I guess, or whatever the predominant mineral of bones is. I can see you being strong enough to overpower someone, and when you have them overpowered, just straight up break a random bone in their body for your awakening. You don't have to break, you know, being able to just crush someone's skeleton outright is just ludicrous, but I could see you getting good enough to do that as the bone fruit user. Another type of awakening, if you're just generating bones willy-nilly and they're not even coming from your body, you just summon like a big club or like how I suggested, the obvious path is there. You turn the environment into bone, and certain bones are harder than metal, you know? And with hockey, they become metal, so the possibilities right there are endless. Some other things you can do with that, I would say, is outside of just the basic attack and defense, you can make bone structures, right? You can like make literal stairways, like very good stairways. Like, see, the Fluff user I don't think that they would be able to make solid stairways without hockey. A bridge is different because you're just stepping on it momentarily and running up, but a stairway, right? You're actually putting force and pressure every time you walk up a step. So you're using your whole body weight, whereas the shift in weight going forward on the Fluff bridge versus a bone staircase, two different things, right? And I can see bone structure, literal bone structures, and it's a good pun too, right? being able to just make just about anything in it, up to like a gigantic skeleton to fight inside of, right? And that's when it, that's where you have to draw the line. Do you choose this fruit as a way to manipulate your body, right? Or would that make it a different fruit entirely? And then the bone fruit, you just generate bones out of thin air, like, you just summon them. Or do you just control and manipulate them? Let me know in the comments down below what you think about that, because this fruit definitely has limitless potential. I mean, you have different precedents, right? You have Kimimaro from Naruto, but you also in Pokemon have tons of different bone type Pokemon, with the standouts being Cubone and Marowak. And they're known because the Cubone wears the skull of its mother, grows into it when it evolves into the Marowak, but they always carry their bone too. Like, I think it's like the femur or something like that. But a bone club on its own, one that, like a bone you can shape and mold to your liking, a sword, a shield, a boomerang, a whip, like, a bow and arrow made of bone would be ridiculous, right? Like I said, possibilities here endless. And it also doesn't really break devil fruit science, as we would call it, right? Devil fruit logic, because we have precedents like the wax fruit, but we also have precedents like kids fruit, and both of these are the standard types of their type, right? We've seen other manipulator type devil fruits, just not so outright. One being Gran Tesoro from film Gold. He can control gold. He can't create gold. He can't summon it willy-nilly, but when he touches gold, it becomes his. And then he can start doing all sorts of crazy things with it, including turning people into gold from the inside out, which is just like, whoa. And at that point, I guess you are making your own gold, right? But you can't just manipulate, or you can't just generate it like Mr. 3 and the wax fruit. So that's why there's so many different avenues for these types of fruits, like the Fluff and the bone fruit. And even like if you were a waste paramecia, that goes different, right? Because let's say you are just a waste person, but you're not a Logia, you're a paramecia, and that lets you control man-made waste too, like simple trash, Like what you would have to define what waste is in that logic. So that's why I kind of like the Logia path for that one more. But honestly, all three of these devil fruits were great ideas, knocked it out of the park with each suggestion. And this is why I like this little series that we got going on, guys. The more devil fruits we create, the more likely of a chance that we'll get one in the series before it ends. Obviously, I'm not saying that Oda would watch this series and then choose a devil fruit. What I'm saying is we could probably get on the right path to where we think of one before Oda debuts one, and he already had it on the docket. Because let me explain something to you. I have a list, right? I got a list of 30 something devil fruits that I have not used at all yet, because I like you guys' suggestions and I try to just use one at a time for that list. One of them was the clay fruit. So damn, I should have used that one sooner. I think I had a devil fruit video where I made the armor fruit. Originally, I was going to use the clay fruit in place of that one. So, oh well. But, that's how things go, and you can never just guess something right away and understand how it goes. So that's why I like this little series that we got going on, because, it might be at the end of soon at the end of One Piece during the final war, we see a bone user, or we see a guy using an atom fruit, or, we see another guy made of cookies and stuff like that. A random son of Big Mom we didn't know existed. Or we see a Fluff fruit user, or a waste Logia. Because, Caribou is not a waste person, but he's, a weird goopy swamp. So, like, take that, but like a poisonous hazard type material, or poop, straight up, But those are the 3 devil fruits for the video. I had a great time thinking of ideas for them. I greatly appreciate all the suggestions that you all give me, and I will ramp up the production from here. I moved into the new place. If you saw my community tab, the cat's out of the bag. Had to move back into my parents' house with my whole family, and luckily my parents got a nice house, so it's not like we're like constantly bumping into each other and stuff. But I'm here. I'm not going to be here for long. At the max, I just want to spend about 6 months here. rebuild myself, get a new job. I already have a job offer lined up on Monday that I'll explore, and you know, rebuild and get a house this time instead of an apartment with the rent going through the roof. And anyways, I've been Merch Hunter Ricky. I love you guys. I really do. Have a great night.